Brown's Roofing, we put our customers first. Our expert project managers are there to answer all your questions and help you out with anything you need. When disaster strikes, either a hailstorm or a leaky roof, you need a contractor in which you can trust.
Hey folks, good morning, good late morning to you, and welcome to the Digital Weather Desk powered by Century Next Bank. I'm Jared Floyd. As we go through this late morning on this Sunday, January 25th, please pardon my voice. It's kind of on its last leg, at least here for the short term. A reminder that, again, for folks with power issues, I'm going to try to go through a lot of this information as quickly as possible to kind of conserve battery, because you really honestly don't know at this point how long you will be without power. A few notes before we get started. You can see the radar there. And I want to say a few things about some places that are open. 3B Hardware, open in Sterlington from 10 to noon today. So from now until noon, they will be open. 3B Hardware and 3B Outdoor, Sterlington and Monroe will both be open tomorrow. I just got off the phone with Matt, and he assured me of that. Also, the latest information from Entergy, and I'll just read some of this kind of verbatim. Today, our primary focus in Ouachita Parish is restoring power to critical infrastructure, including water systems and hospitals, while continuing to assess damage across impacted communities. Where conditions allow, crews will be restoring power as safely and as quickly as possible. In areas where roads and weather remain hazardous, teams will continue damage assessments so the right resources can be deployed as soon as it's safe to work. So again, as soon as they can get moving, they will be moving. And top priorities, as the messaging just kind of mentioned, will be infrastructure, hospitals, and those places, and then kind of working their way from there. A look at the radar again. The plus side for the western counties and parishes in our coverage area is we're getting rid of the precipitation. The last of the freezing rain and sleet has generally wrapped up across the vast majority of the western half of our coverage area. The downside to it is we're still kind of in the throes of prolonged precipitation across portions of the Mississippi Valley and into central Mississippi. Now, for our counties and parishes, and again, we roll right from Greenville to Natchez here in western Mississippi, a lot of this is starting to wrap up. So I would think in the next half hour to hour or so, most of the precipitation, the measurable accumulating precipitation will stop falling. Now, the kicker with that is I wouldn't be surprised to still run into some light freezing drizzle, some light snow flurries, some light sleet pellets, all of those types of things from time to time through the overnight hours tonight. It obviously will add very, very minuscule trace amounts of ice and snow accumulation, but not anything, marked in terms of noticeable increases. So now our next problem as we go from here, and this is where I want folks, Christina asked the question, when will the trees stop popping and falling? And that's the problem that we run into now is I don't think they will today. We need to get above freezing, and I don't think that's going to happen. A lot of these trees are obviously tall trees, and as you move higher in the atmosphere, the air gets colder. So we're running into the problem of we're below freezing, then you move higher up, and it's even more below freezing. So the ice isn't really going to go anywhere in the trees, and then you factor in the potential for winds tonight. We'll get to that in just a minute. It does create all sorts of headaches. There are some areas that have climbed to the freezing mark in our southern counties and parishes. Will you see some of the ice melt off? Yes, but it'll be very, very gradual and very, very slow. The other thing that will help us out today is sunshine. We've actually seen some thinner clouds, especially immediately after the precip ends. For those that are waiting for it to end, the sleet and the freezing rain and all that stuff, when it wraps up in your area, you're probably going to see a thin layer of clouds, and it's almost like the sun's come out, which is awesome. But here's the other problem with that is insulation. The sun's energy, even though we're below freezing, will probably do at least a little bit of melting. And so that now you've got that little sheen of melting ice at the top as it continues to make its way down. Well, eventually tonight we're going to drop way below freezing, and that's going to freeze. For folks that have sheds and outbuildings and things like that, the warmth of your home will eventually start melting that down, and if you have something for it to roll onto, that will refreeze. And I have a roof that's lower than my actual residential roof, and so I have a feeling that we're going to run into some issues there. Speaking of roofs, if you are having roof leak issues and things of that nature, again, reminder of Brown's Roofing. You can schedule your inspection at brownsroofingla.com. Low temperatures tonight and into Monday morning. Single digits and teens. Again, this is where we run into the problem. A lot of the folks that think that we're kind of done now, we're done with the precipitation, but in terms of the extreme cold and the impacts of that, and the impacts of the ice on the ground, ice in the trees, ice on our roofs, and things of that nature, that's going to linger until we can get above freezing and until we can thaw out. And I just, again, don't see that happening through the daytime hours on Monday. Most of us won't get above freezing tomorrow. Overnight lows Monday into Tuesday are back into the single digits in a lot of spots. Teens for the rest of us. It will be very, very cold. And I also want to stress for the folks, keep in mind that a lot of folks are out of power, and a lot of folks are stubborn. I'll be all right. I'll be all right. You don't need to worry about me. Keep checking on your people. Everybody. I've been rolling through everybody. Hey, just checking. Make sure you're good. Just everybody needs to check on everybody. Make sure everybody's staying warm safely. Make sure that your heat sources are in proper working order. Make sure that they are away from carpets and drapes and things that can catch fire. Be smart. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones and your family and your neighbors around you. Here's a look at the power outages as of 10:15 this morning. 43% of Jackson Parish without power. 47% of Ouachita Parish without power. 63% of East Carroll Parish without power. A large number of Issaquena County without power. Starting to see the power outages increase. Jefferson, Claiborne, Adams counties in Mississippi. Bienville Parish has been hit hard. Grant and Wynn Parish is starting to see an increase. I've also started to hear a lot about folks talking about the outages in Columbia. Here are the regional outages. And when you, again, paint the picture, it's really from northeastern Mississippi through the I-20 corridor of the Arklamis and then stretching back through Toledo Bend. These are the areas that have been really hit the hardest by this ice storm. And again, I applaud a lot of computer model guidance that was insistent on this since a week ago, which is not common. And they did a phenomenal job in being able to give us information so we could alert and message you. Again, not really time for victory laps, but that was a very big relief on my end to know that we were able to put at least some confidence in the forecast. Because if we had brought the messaging to you, it may be rain, it may be freezing rain, and then this happened and power outages started popping up Saturday morning, you can imagine, the angst and the bitterness that folks would have had. The next problem now is the cold weather. Extreme cold warnings are in place across the entire region. Again, single-digit lows with sub-zero wind chills a possibility tonight. Wind chills have no impact, zero impact on ice freezing and all that stuff. That's a human element thing. But again, the cold enough is going to be the problem. Northwesterly and northerly winds still pretty persistent in the 10 to 15 mile an hour range. Those are not welcome winds. A look at the futurecast wind speeds as we go through the overnight or into the late night hours tonight. Generally staying persistent in the 10 to 15 mile an hour range, especially along the Mississippi Valley. Wind gusts, not overly aggressive, but probably a few miles an hour higher than our actual sustained winds. There will be a window of opportunity, especially tonight and into early Monday morning, for us to maybe see some stronger gusts in the 20 to 25 mile an hour range. Again, wind is not welcome at this point. So that's where the forecast sits. Again, if you're, on limited power, that's where the forecast is for the time being. And so if you want to, hop off this Facebook Live and conserve your phone battery, it's totally fine. Like I said, we're trying to provide this information. And as before you split, I will say this: as the precipitation starts to wrap up in the next hour or so, our live coverage, our live updates like this will become more infrequent. Still providing information, still relaying information to you, still with you through this thing, but providing updates on precipitation is kind of will not be relevant in the next hour or two. So what we'll do from there, I will do another live stream at some point this afternoon or this evening, probably in the 4 or 5 o'clock range. As we prepare for tonight, we'll take a look at road conditions, prepare for the fact that those road conditions will deteriorate tonight. Anything that's left on the roads tonight is going to freeze, and it's going to freeze quickly as temperatures fall into the teens. So we'll talk about that this evening. We'll talk about the winds and keep an eye on those wind speeds. We'll talk about the power outages. Essentially the same thing we're talking about now, minus the radar, because we won't necessarily need it at that point. But a little less frequent updates. It will give me an opportunity. This has been a lot, and it's been a lot for everybody. I think everybody's mentally just kind of spent, myself included. I'll admit it. So I'm going to take a few hours just kind of chill and, well, actually, literally, because I'm going to go out there and try to scoop some more ice off my roof. But we've still got some hazards ahead of us, but the falling precipitation, is not going to be one of those once we get past the next hour and a half. Interactive radar and your forecast is always available at digitalweatherdesk.com. Again, keep in mind our local business partners who stand by ready to help you. Schedule your free roof inspection at brownsroofingla.com, servpro.com if you have water or problems like that around. Of course, you need chainsaws and generators and stuff like that. 3B Hardware waiting for you. 3B Outdoor will be open tomorrow. So those are all folks that, again, are standing by waiting to help you, along with all of the other local businesses and business partners that make this information possible. If you are overwhelmed and you don't know where to start, again, 211 is your local source for resources. They will connect you to the available resources in your area. It's a free call, 24/7, 365. Josh says, what led to Ruston dodging most of the freezing rain compared to the towns around us? So let me ask this. I'm assuming that Ruston ended up with more sleet than, because I mean, I've seen pictures, but everybody's pictures now kind of look the same, and I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm like, it's just a big, it looks like everybody has an ice skating rink outside. So it's really hard for me to gather what everybody's seen in terms of different types of precipitation. So I would assume that you're saying, yeah, so the sleet, you guys had, and I showed you the sounding data yesterday. I'm not going to get into that again because, I don't think anybody has the mental capacity or the brain energy to go super weather nerd right now. But essentially, you guys had just enough cold air in the lowest levels of the atmosphere. There's kind of this, we call it the minus 6 degrees Celsius rule, and it's essentially if you can get the freezing layer near the ground level to that point, that's cold enough to refreeze a sleet pellet in most layers of the environment. So you guys, and I said this a lot over the week, a matter of a few tenths of a degree in either direction in the lowest 10,000 feet of the atmosphere would make all the difference between freezing rain, sleet, and that panned out in Ruston. Again, a lot of the areas, I think El Dorado had, from what I understand, it was a lot of sleet. Much of southern Arkansas was a lot of sleet. That colder air was just stout enough. But let me draw a picture real quick, and this is going to be very, very crude, okay? But to drive that point, why'd you stop that, Jared? Come on. So to drive kind of the point home, let me put the right radar back on. I'm getting a little click happy with the mouse. Hang on, folks. Here we go. All right, so there's a radar. There was a corridor through pretty much this entire thing, and the computer models were on it. That was kind of like here, somewhere in that ballpark or something, where we saw more sleet in this area and we saw more freezing rain in this area. Now that said, most of our sleet in both instances in the areas to the southeast, most of our precip at the onset was sleet. But then I think as that precip intensified, again, we talked about latent heat processes. There's another thing to keep in mind too. Look at where your surface temperature in Ruston is compared to Monroe. You're at 25, they're at 28. But through most of this event, Monroe was sitting at 28 to 31. Sometimes even got to right at 32. Ruston sat in this event generally in the mid-20s. So again, it's a matter of just a stronger amount of that lowest level of cold, shallow Arctic air making all the difference. I'm not making this stuff up when I tell you guys a matter of a tenth of a degree, a few tenths of a degree in a few thousand feet of the atmosphere will make all the difference between precip type. That is how nuanced and complex our atmosphere is. James gives this a report from YouTube. Wind starting to pick up out in log cabin outside of Bastrop. Not good. Still cold outside. 24 degrees. Still a light mist falling. But not sure if it's coming from the sky or blowing off the trees. To be honest with you, James, it's probably still some patchy drizzle. There's going to be some freezing drizzle to be had, probably through a good chunk of the afternoon. Is it going to add much? Maybe a hundredth or a few hundredths of an inch of accumulation, but not anything drastic compared to where we are right now. But yeah, not ideal. Still, like you said, 24 degrees. Bastrop we have at 25. Monticello's at 21. So whatever's on the ground, especially as we lose the sunshine tonight, sunsets, it's going to be ice skating rink city all over again. A lot of folks are asking, what about travel tomorrow? Doesn't look good. If you don't have to get out tomorrow, don't. Tuesday, there's a reason why a lot of our schools closed Monday and Tuesday preemptively. Because it's not only that, but now we're looking at some of these schools having structural problems, with all the ice accumulation. You got to figure a lot of these schools probably have trees down, may have structural issues, all kinds of stuff like this to take into account. What's the status of I-20? Jamie, that's a good question. Do I have one camera that works? I have one camera. I-20 at Texas Avenue, the bottom third camera. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of people moving on it, but it does look like at least traffic is moving across the region. It's probably moving slowly, but I think it's probably at least possible. So again, that's kind of where we sit things for this evening. Forecast is always available at digitalweatherdesk.com and on the Digital Weather Desk app. It's going to be cold tonight. The wind will be a concern across the region, so make sure that you're staying warm safely. And I don't want folks to let their guards down that the precip's over and you're like, well, we skirted through this pretty good. You may run into your own issues. So again, stay warm safely, kind of protect your homestead, clear off ice and all that stuff where you can, but just again, take care of yourselves and your neighbors. There won't be a lot of folks moving around a lot for the next day and a half, and understandably so. I'll join you again this evening, probably closer to 4 o'clock. I don't want to say exactly 4 o'clock, and I'm not going to make one of those fancy graphics saying 4 o'clock, but it's probably going to be somewhere in the afternoon. For a lot of us, you're not going to need to urgently join that. It's just going to be an updated forecast as we go into the night, looking at winds and temperatures and power outages. For lack of a better term, you guys don't need me as much in terms of providing the frequent updates because the precipitation was the big problem. But again, temperatures are still an issue, and again, I will relay what I know when I know it, and that's it. That's where we are. Stay warm. Take care of yourselves, your neighbors, your family, and like I said, we're all in this together. Everybody's tired. Everybody's anxious. Everybody's frustrated. Understandably so. Thanks so much for stopping by the Digital Weather Desk, powered by Century Next Bank. Try the best to enjoy your Sunday, and I'll check in with you in a couple hours.